comfort to those who grieve. Help them to dispel the sadness that accompanies the pain of loss, and to find joy in the precious memories of Sanford Gill. May your love inspire them to focus on the love that they had for their beloved and that their beloved had for them. Help them to face the future with courage, to treasure Sanford's wonderful legacy. Sustain us in our faith, O God, even in this troubling time, as you have sustained our people in times of trouble and sorrow throughout the generations. Blessed are you, Adonai, who provides comfort to the brokenhearted. May the source of life, the fountain of all being, open our hearts to compassion and our eyes to wisdom, that we might glimpse in perfect peace and sadness the way of all things. May the memory of Sanford Gill be for us a blessing, and may we never let the light of his love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all his worthy and righteous deeds, that his memory be forever bound up in the bond of life. God is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end. May Sanford's death awaken us to this truth, that the bond of love we shared and share not be severed in sorrow. May he rest in peace, and together we say, Amen. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey from childhood to maturity, and youth to age, from innocence to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. Ecclesiastes wrote, "The eye never has its fill of seeing. Young or old, those who depart this life never see enough of the world, never complete their tasks, never cherish their loved ones enough before they are called home. How they yearned for yet another respite from the final summons, and how we yearned to have them close to us for yet another challenge in our lives, yet another joy, yet another precious moment together. God, be now with those whose hearts are broken, because whenever parting comes, it comes too soon. Console them at this hour, be near to them when light seems distant. Sustain them, O God, until the time of healing." Let us all pray silently. Please join me. O Jose Shalom Bimrama, Huya Ase Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, Ve'imru, Amen. Ya Ase Shalom, Ya Ase Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. I found it more than a little coincidental that Sanford passed away on the day of a significant commemoration in Israel, Yom HaZikaron, which is equivalent to our Memorial Day when we honor those who have fallen in battle while bravely and honorably serving their country. The word Zikaron means memory, and that is what we have gathered here today to do, to remember the life of an extraordinary man and to celebrate his life. This juxtaposition of memory and celebration occurs in Israel as well, as Yom HaZikaron is followed immediately by Yom HaTzmaut, Israel Independence Day, a holiday of joyous revelry and merriment. Yesterday we celebrated 68 years of Israel's existence as a sovereign state, which is exactly as long as Sanford and Beverly were married. So in recognition of the timing of all this and the fact that part of Sanford's family live in Israel, place which he and Beverly visited many, many times over the years, I'd like to set the tone today with an anecdote about our Jewish state. Two large bodies of water are found in Israel. One is of fresh water fed by the Jordan River, which has its source in the northern hills. The Jordan then continues south into another sea. In this second sea, no fish can swim, no vegetation can grow, no one can drink its waters. The first, the Sea of Galilee, the Kinneret, receives and gives in equal measure. The second sea, however, receives but does not release any of the water that enters it. It keeps whatever it gets. It gives nothing. It is called the Dead Sea, for there is no life in or about it. These two seas, our rabbis would have us understand, are like different personalities. There are individuals who are extremely self-centered, who always want to receive but are not ready to reciprocate in kind. On the other hand, there are people whose hearts are like the gently flowing waters of the Kinneret, who receive and give in equal measure, no, who give more than they receive. Their sweet, refreshing personalities foster growth, joy, and happiness. Young and old flock about them to be refreshed by their ever-flowing kindness. No better simile can be found for the life of Sanford Gill than the Kinneret, the Sea of Galilee. With broken hearts, we come together to mourn the passing of a very special human being, an extraordinary human being, who made his mark and left an indelible imprint on all those whose lives he touched during his lifetime. Sanford is mourned for today by his loving and devoted wife, Beverly, his children, Linda, Alan, Pam, and their spouses and partners, Jeffrey, Rona, and Jim, his grandchildren, Brian, Danny, Andrew, Mati, Jordan, Hadara, and their spouses, Elise, Wendy, Marla, Hagit, Nama, and Noam, and his great-grandchildren, Paige, Tyler, Haley, Rowan, Mia, Ofre, Maya, Nadav, Eitan, Emma, Ava, and Shaked. Sanford was predeceased by his parents, Harry and Paula Gill, and his dear brother, Gerald. May their memories be for a blessing. Sanford was born in Lodz, Poland on March 24th, 1923, 93 years ago. His father, Harry, left Poland when Sanford was just 3 years old, setting off to America in search for a better life for his wife and son. He settled in Cleveland and became a tailor. In those days, immigrants to our shores had to prove their worth and viability before they could send for their family. By the time Sanford was 7, his father had established himself in the community, and he and his mother made the journey to the land of freedom and opportunity, a classic American Jewish story of immigration. He attended Glenville High School, graduating in June of 1941. Just 6 months later, on December 7th, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, and Sanford immediately enlisted in the Navy, along with many of his peers, fighting the very enemy that was responsible for the murder of his family who had remained in Poland. He became an expert in sonar radar, serving through the end of the war. Yes, Sanford was a stalwart member of the greatest generation, which saved the world. Upon returning home, he went to college on the GI Bill, earning his degree in accounting at Cleveland College, which would become Western Reserve. He attended law school and then practiced as a public accountant for the next 60 years. He was well liked and greatly respected by his clients for his high standards of professional ethics and his essential good nature. Work, however, was not the center of his life. Family was. His wife, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren were the focus of everything he did. They were his guiding lights. In a few moments, we will hear from those who knew and loved Sanford best, for no eulogy of mine could be as poignant or convey the true essence of the man better than can the words from the heart spoken by his progeny. What I can say, however, is that rarely have I seen a man so adored, admired, and loved by all. And I deeply admired him myself from the first day I met him. Perhaps it was his dry sense of humor which revealed his innate intelligence and wit. Perhaps it was how, at age 93, Sanford amazed me with his sharp mind and his youthful appearance. With his striking, full head of hair, he was always noticeable. But what truly made him stand out was not his physical characteristics, but rather the quality of his character. Sanford was a gentle man and a gentleman. His glass was always half full, never half empty. Today, our hearts are the same, half empty because our lives are so much lesser without him, but also half full because of the love we shared with him, the memories that will always be with us, and the gratitude we all feel in having been granted the privilege of walking the path of life with him for so long. If you asked Sanford what it was that brought him the greatest happiness, he might have said it was being able to dance at the weddings of all 6 of his grandchildren, or that he welcomed 12 great-grandchildren into the world and attended one's bat mitzvah, Paige's, last year, and saw another's, Tyler's, from Israel on the web just in recent weeks. Whatever you feel may have been his greatest accomplishment, one thing is certain. Sanford Gill's cup of life was overflowing. He lived fully, experienced much, traveled to many places, loved the opera, symphony, the ballet, and Broadway. He loved to dance, loved Cleveland's sports teams, especially his beloved Indians, was an avid reader of history and fiction, but what he loved the most was, as I said, his family. His life was truly a blessing, and his enormous achievements were a credit to him, our people, and our nation. May God now watch over him and grant him the peace he so richly deserves. May his memory be for a blessing in time to come, and may all his ma'asim tovim, his good deeds, be an inspiration to his loved ones. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. I shall now call upon, in the following order, we will hear from Linda, Alan, Pam, Brian, and Matty.
and his name was Pa. Some knew him as Sanford or Sandy, but it is this special name, the one he wore proudly for over 44 years, that truly defined him. Pa was the other half of an amazing team, lovingly referred to as Ma and Pa, the grandparents that every grandchild could hope for, each one in their own way forming a lasting bond, each one made to feel unique. We, his children, loved watching this journey unfold. He was to his 6 grandchildren a friend, a teacher, often a confidant, their buddy, once a best man. He traveled long distances to share the important moments in some of his grandchildren's lives, wanting to be there, smiling, and honored to be included. Here at home, a lunch or dinner date with Pa, possibly Ma, started with 2, ended up with 4, 5, or more. Everything centered around plans with Pa. He always made it easy to laugh at him and with him, sometimes just using a look or a pointed finger to get across his message. How many times we heard, "Pa, do you remember the time?" There are so many memories and more created as the journey continued, with the addition of 6 more grandchildren by marriage and 12 great-grandchildren who were blessed to touch and be touched by their Pa. In the later years, when he became more vulnerable, a little more fragile, all would rally around, anxious to spend as much time as possible, wanting to create still more memories, a testimonial to a father, grandfather, great-grandfather. Even as he was slowly slipping away, he struggled to speak, wanting us, as he put it to me, "Please remember my words." Who can forget? His legacy will go on for generations to come because the children will hear, "Your grandfather and great-grandfather used to say." I remember growing up watching my parents dance around the living room, so embarrassed I would rush to pull the kitchen curtains closed. Yet, as the years passed at celebrations, I marveled as my father would take my mother's hand and lead her to the dance floor, a gleam in his eye, holding her, guiding her smoothly, his partner. When he was no longer able to glide around the dance floor, my mother would take the lead, steadying him as they swayed to the music, his eyes shining as he held her. This always done surrounded by a circle of loving people soaking up the moment. I am certain my dear brother, my dear sister, and his other blessed children, Rona and Jeffrey, agree as to how fortunate and privileged we are to have known him as long as we have been able to know him and to call him Dad. We recognize our blessing and surely hope everyone gets some of what we have known. My mother recently remarked, not only did he still make her laugh after 68 years, she was surprised to learn something new about him, that he was innately a gentleman. It is important to honor our mother while having to make difficult decisions, recognizably not easy. She did so lovingly, prioritizing her husband, her partner. Her insistence to have him at home, to keep him comfortable, and retain his dignity in familiar surroundings, gave us the chance to say goodbye and to witness the true meaning of a lasting love. It was a gift to all of us. We thank you and we love you. Our sadness today is in knowing we can no longer touch nor talk with this wonderful man. We will, however, smile a little smile as we all in our own way recall many fond memories of a man called Pa.
My dad. Being the youngest means usually batting cleanup, but Alan's going to take that privilege today. So Linda, thank you for your beautiful words. And to Linda and Jeffrey, I'd really like to thank you for opening up your home to all of us so that we can continue through Shiva to remember and honor Pa. We are grateful to everyone for being with us and the incredible support we've had these past few months. I recognize that few of my contemporaries have enjoyed both their parents and their lives at our ages. We have, and we remain blessed. And I was saying earlier, I'm going to be 60 years old this year, and it's the first time I've sat in the family room. We are really fortunate. I also want to recognize the incredible angels on earth who have cared for my dad and guided us through this time, especially and most notably my mom. She made a deliberate decision to have Dad at home with dignity and love. She is our inspiration and our rock. Among many of my father's attributes, his passion for civil liberties and love of opera, ballet, and all things classical are some of the most unique memories I have with him. I can recall many evenings in the basement turned recreation room with my dad and a record player, listening to La Boheme, Don Giovanni, any Beethoven symphony, Mahler's Carmina Burana, and Tchaikovsky, particularly Swan Lake, which we listened to daily leading up to the night my parents took us downtown to the ballet to see Rudolf Nureyev perform his first post-defection American tour. We think it was 1963. Being the youngest child, it also meant that in 1970, within a 2-month period, Linda married, Alan left for college, I moved up to the 3rd floor bedroom, and became the sole child at the dinner table for 4 very important teenage years. As a curious teenager in a radical era in America, this was just post-civil rights, Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, Watergate, Vietnam, marches on Washington. Our dinner table discussions were very lively. I had a glimpse of what these discussions would look like in 1968 when my parents took just me to Washington, D.C. The 3 of us drove to Washington during the '68 Chicago Convention, which we listened to for 7 hours in the car, with my parents commenting and educating me about why we must exercise our right to vote. My dad taught me how to approach life with intelligence and not just heart, and to always ask why. When the Ku Klux Klan marched on Skokie, to me it was clear this should be shut down. It was then my dad taught me about freedom of speech and expression and the slippery slope of censorship. The immigrant who escaped Nazi Germany and Europe could see past the anti-Semitism in Skokie because freedom of speech and freedom to assemble should not be compromised. And I believe to him this was his real American dream, and of course, Major League Baseball. He taught me about the Supreme Court. He truly believed in the process and that when voting for president, always remember that you could be appointing a Supreme Court justice. Make sure you believe in the candidate's principles and that they demonstrate the Constitution as our foundation. He loved politics, and it is fitting that he chose now to depart. I will absolutely miss my conversations with my father in the next 6 months. Yesterday, a dear neighbor and friend of my parents said, "I love that Sanford never forgot he was a Democrat." My dad would spontaneously pile us into the car to go to Euclid Beach or the old Chester Arena to watch that new team, the Cavaliers. He danced foolishly to embarrass us, and we'd close the curtains so no one could see him. And he made me the honorary back girl of my brother's Little League team. On the night he passed, my mom was sharing stories with Jim and me about when they met and started dating. She said he was a devil, and he would intimidate other suitors to win his future bride. Pa was competitive in his own way. I'm the crier. I believe it was his subtle competitive way, an innate survival, perhaps from his days back in the Polish ghetto, that kept him fighting to the end. And in reflection, I believe it was that sense of compassion for the underdog and concern for humankind he instilled in us that drove us all to care for him and love him more in his fragility at his end of life. In these past weeks, he told us how he loved his family, how much Mom means to him, and he held our hands. And while our hearts are heavy, we could not have scripted a more beautiful ending to Pa's life story. Amen.
To
December 7th, 1941. Absolutely a day that will live in infamy. What a beautiful honor. How proud he was to serve this country in a time of war. December 7th in our family is known for another form of infamy, another form of evil, because it was December 7th, 1941, that my father's grandfather, after whom I'm named, whose name I carry and cherish, Avram Yechiel, Zichrono Livracha, he was murdered by the Nazis. My dad didn't know that. My cousin Irene did, the last of the Ludgers. He was murdered. He was starved to death, alone, before his time. Now I look at my father, 93 years old, who said to me 3 weeks ago, when we came back from Jack's, after I said to him, "Pa, I think you're the luckiest man alive," he said, "I am." Look at the two different lives. Look at his grandfather and look at him. He was so blessed, he cherished it. He didn't talk about it. I learned when I was 19 years old about the Holocaust, about the Shoah. He allowed us, he enabled us to project onto our lives in his narrative that which was most precious to us, and was life. He wanted a happy life. He wanted us to be happy, but happy with meaning. Always meaning. Didn't have to talk about it. We just did it. Magic coming from this extraordinary, complicated, beautiful man. I had the best childhood with him, sports galore. I grew up in a family with all women, but my dad, he was my big brother too. Come on, Alan, let's catch a game. It's Modell weather, let's go. Everything, the fun. Loved my friends. House was open, loved his family. In-laws, there were no such thing. Everybody was part of the mishpacha once they bought in. And that was who he was, an open heart. But I believe that somewhere deep down, I believe with all my heart, that he devoted his life to rebuilding that which was destroyed. It wasn't just that I carry the name of his grandfather, who was his surrogate father for half his young life in Poland. Imagine, 3.5 years old, your father leaves you for 3.5 years. His Saba, my great-grandfather, his grandfather was his surrogate father. Never talked about him. The scars go deep. But what we have done in our family is to bring those people to life. Because we live for life. And that was his lesson. We move on, but we remember. And now, at the end of his days, he talked a little bit. I got him to admit a few things to me. And he told me that the joy of his life was family. And he said, "You are a great grandfather, Alan." He taught me what matters most is the love of family, is the bringing others in the generations that follow us along, so that they too can appreciate their heritage, so they too can appreciate what it means to be in a beautiful community of people, and to be a Jew and to be a man, a free man in the world. And now he's going home, wherever that is, what we call Hashemayim, heaven. And I want to read you a poem that I recently read. It will be the past, and we will live together. Not as it was to live, but as if, and it is remembered. Heaven, it will be the past. we'll all go back together. Everyone we ever loved and lost and must remember. It will be the past, and it will last forever. Your home, Pa, in the soul and the bosom of your family. Say hi to your grandpa. He knows you were the greatest grandpa and great-grandpa and greatest father and greatest husband you could possibly be. We will love you and be with you forever. Yehi Zichrono Baruch. Your memory will surely be a blessing.
My grandfather, Pa. He loved his family. He hated broccoli. Not much else. Well, Republicans and prevent defense. Pa was the best among us, but he never once tried to be seen as that. He was always the smartest in the room, but never acted like it. Whenever you sat with him on the couch at home, or later in his command central chair, or at breakfast at a greasy spoon where he had the special, not that Ma was ever to know, everyone there knew him and talked to him and liked him. But when you talked with him about your life, and what was going on, he made everyone feel special like that. It was not just questions and listening. Pa was so smart, so special, that he was able to sit there and actually discuss the finer principles of law, Israeli politics, banking, healthcare, the coffee industry, the history of any tour that anyone could take anyone on. He would know about it. And if he didn't, he'd find out so he could talk with you about it. He was so caring that he always asked, genuinely wanted to know about family, the spouses, the great-grandkids, and whether you were happy. He was truly engaged in your life, your interests, your trips, your travels. And somehow, after talking with him, you seem to walk away feeling a bit smarter and clearly more morally disciplined. He was the best among us. But he would rather talk proudly about his family than anything else. And he always made time for us. He took Matt and me to the Sky Dome just to catch a tribe game, and refused to stop at a hotel on the way home, even though Ma said he was too old at the age of 60 to drive all the way back after driving there that same day. Pa took Danny and me to Niagara Falls and got us soaked on the Maid of the Mist. He traveled with Ma to Disney World with Andrew and Jordan, my father, and me. He took with Ma in 1988, got on a bus and we went to Washington for the March for Soviet Jews. And they explained that if we stayed home, so would thousands and thousands of Soviet Jews. Family was family. That was it. Aunt, uncle, blood, or married. First cousin or fifth. Family was family. And there was no separation. He was the best among us. But he was humble. He knew he was not perfect, and he joined in about joking about that. Tripping upstairs, the stains on the front of his shirt, being completely oblivious to the huge turkey that sat in the refrigerator after he got a drink before his Polish birthday party. Seriously, every time that I will stain my shirt, moving forward, I will think of it as a Pa stain, and I will remember him fondly for it. As bright and wonderful as he was, he accepted his imperfections, and in doing so, he taught us to do so as well. He was the best among us. He taught us the importance of making the world a better place, fighting for the less fortunate, the underdog, those that needed help. As a Polish immigrant, he never lost that perspective. And he imparted that to his children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, who all do so many wonderful things to help so many people because of the core values that Pa and Ma imparted to us. I am blessed to have almost 45 years with my grandfather. I am blessed that he danced with my daughter at Matt's wedding in Israel, and he saw and participated in her bat mitzvah. I am blessed that our kids really knew him and that he knew them. I am blessed that I have someone to aspire to be like. He truly was the best among us. He taught us so much, even in the end. In his final days, he was teaching us. No matter how many times he told us how proud he was of us and made us feel loved by being there, interested, and involved. He woke up and he said, "I love you." And he said, "I wish I would have said that more." So please, for our Pa, when you have a chance to say you love someone, please do that today. Don't wait, even if you think it is abundantly clear. And Pa, it was abundantly clear. Pa said something to me over and over, and I'm sure that was the same for the rest of the family. Every time I called, he would say, "Hello? Who is this? Brian? Hold on. Beverly." I will miss all of those simple little things for the rest of my life, even just a lick on the cheek. Pa was the best among us. Every time you walked into the room, he would hold his hand out and offer to shake it. And then when you left, he'd wave like this. And it was goodbye. Thank you.
Pa, you are the best grandfather a child could ask for. And I miss you. Already. You were also a great role model for a young man to have. A man of tremendous intellect, of core beliefs, as we've heard, who had the potential for greatness while having his priorities straight. Family first. You lived with a grounded inner sense of peace. Yom HaShoah, Yom HaZikaron, and Yom HaAtzmaut this week that we celebrated in Israel and as a people around the world. It's symbolic that you decided to leave us now, as we feel so grateful to have spent so many years with you, yet so sad that we will have no more. This is a period of sadness and gratitude, of memorials and joyous celebration for our people. are people that rose from the depths of hell and fought persecution to fight for their freedom and create a new life for us. Pa, you did that. You did that for us. And we learn from you now that we should never, ever take our lives for granted. We should never take our equality for granted, our freedom for granted, or our happiness for granted. And we must say thanks every day for what we have, and especially for who we have to share it with. Pa, I will never take my 36 years with you for granted, or any of those moments. Ma, I'll never take you for granted, or for the fact that you took care of Pa, and I know he didn't take care of that for granted, that you fought for his dignity. Thank you for celebrating life while you lived it with us. And thank you for teaching us all not to take ourselves too seriously. I teach my kids the same thing that I pulled a Pa when I stain my shirt quite often. You taught us the gift of self-humor. You also taught us the love for knowledge, for reading, and how fitting it is to see a book with you. Your passion for politics was not due to partisanship, but it was rather rooted in a deep ideological passion for what is right and for what is wrong. I've learned that. I've been inspired by that. You defended your country with pride against evil, and the sight of you with pride and tears in your eyes when I was commissioned as an officer in the army in Israel, the army of our people, that's a memory that will accompany me forever. And my years of service were worth that just one glimpse of pride in your eye. Your love of sports. Bob Feller used to say that there's two types of parents, fathers. Those that play catch with their kids and those that don't. You played catch with my dad. You taught my dad. You coached my dad. My dad played catch with me. He's a great father. I'll play catch with my kids. Already am. Already will. And I'll pass this on to my girls as I will with my son. So thank you for perhaps the most important lesson that you've touched us all, that you've helped to teach us all, the uncompromising respect and love for family, and what a family it is that you leave behind. As Jordan said before, yesterday when we were talking, you were a man of world knowledge. You saw the world, yet you were complete and you were happy just being at home in your command chair, doing absolutely nothing, as long as you were surrounded by Ma and your family. That is what's unique about you. And what is unique is that we were blessed to have you for so long in our lives. And that just makes us miss you that much more, that we got to know you for that long. And we'll forever simultaneously feel sadness and gratitude, wishing you were there with us, cherishing the moments we had with you. At 91, as Brian mentioned, dancing at my wedding in Yafo, with Andrew and Danny, helping you through the desert to reach the chuppah at Dari's wedding, giving my 2 and 7-year-old daughters a kiss just last month. Pa, they say rest in peace, menucha b'shalom. But Pa, you lived a life of peace. You lived with a humility that allowed you an inner sense of calm. And from the perils of childhood and persecution, you were born as a man with strong belief in equality that demanded that we treat all of our neighbors and all of brethren as we would want them to treat us. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, a love for humanity. And this we will help pass along for the generations to come. You left us in peace in your home. And we commit here as the generations to come to continuing your legacy, so that you can continue to rest in peace. Teh menuchatcha b'shalom. Thank you.
Into your care, O God, we entrust the spirit of Sanford Gill, for you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Sustain us that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, God, are with us, a loving friend in whom we put our trust. You are the light of our life, our hope in eternity. Let us all rise now for the El Mole Rachamim. El Mole Rachamim, Shochen Mamaromim, Chamtzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanafei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Utorim, Kizohar Harakim Azhirim, Et Nishmat Shlomo Ben Tzvi Vepesa, Shehalach Le'olamo, Ba'al Rachamim Yastirei B'Seiter Kenafav Le'olamim, Vitzror Chachayim Et Nishmato, Adonai Unachalato V'yanuach B'Shalom, Al Mishkavo V'Namar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Sanford Gill, Shlomo ben Tzvi Vepesa, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. Would you please be seated? At the end of each refrain, if you'll all say the words, we remember him. At the rising of the sun and at its going down, at the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, at the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, at the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, at the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, when we are weary and in need of strength, when we are lost and sick at heart, when we have joys we yearn to share, when we have decisions that are difficult to make, when we have achievements that are based on his. As long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him.